What do you say, guys? Welcome to the Cubs baseball channel. Tyler Glasnow on the market? Question mark. Well, I mean, the question is, are the Tampa Bay Rays going to shop him? And a lot of executives around baseball think that they will. It's part of their formula for success. You know, you get a guy, he's good, then you trade him the last year, and then you find some young talent to replace him. Will the Cubs be a player in that? We're going to get into that here. A lot of that's. But one thing that is really important to us is that you join the Cubs baseball channel. Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up if you like Cubs content. Hit the bell so you know when we're live. And let's talk some Cubs baseball. All right. What do you say, guys? Welcome to the Cubs baseball channel. I'm Mick Gillespie. And again, pleasure to have you guys here as we talk Cubs baseball. Today's topic is pitching. And I really wanted to start with Tyler Glasnow on the market. You remember him when he was with the Pirates? It's like a blue chip, star first round pick guy. And then he went to the Rays, and then he's been great as a Ray. Last year, 10-7 record, a 3.53 ERA, a ton of strikeouts, 162 Ks and 120 innings. And, the analytic crowd loves that, 21 starts. First off, I appreciate how good he is. But then I look at 120 innings and, 21 starts, and it's like, okay, it's kind of the same. I feel like he's kind of the same as Marcus Stroman, kind of the same area of numbers. And when you look at the salary, it's close, right? $3 million more. Marcus Stroman, who opted out of his contract, was going to make $21 million, and Glasnow is going to make $24 million. And I think that's one of the reasons why the Rays want to trade him. They don't have the money to pay him. I mean, look at the playoff crowd that they didn't have. And, they're a very small market team. And then he's got 1 year left, and then he's a free agent. Well, they're not going to pay him, right? And they had him last year. They had a great season, and then they lost in the playoffs. But everyone got run over by Texas. So maybe now is the time to make the move. So if you're the Cubs and you decide you want Tyler Glasnow, you're going to have to trade the Rays pitching prospects with prospects to get him. And what this deal kind of reminds me of a little bit is when the Cubs made the trade with Matt Garza, with the Rays for Matt Garza. This is going back a little bit. And I remember one of the executives who didn't like the trade in the organization at the time said, "Mick, do you realize what we just did?" And I said, "What?" He said, "Well, we just traded Chris Archer, who's actually better than Matt Garza, for Matt Garza with Sam Fold and Brandon Guyer." And so you remember Sam Fold, it was a great defender, and now he's the GM of the Phillies. He's one of my all-time favorite players. And he's done a wonderful job as an executive, which we always knew. I mean, his nickname was Sammy Baseball for a reason. And then Brandon Guyer, who was had a good big league career. He was with the Indians when the Cubs beat him in the World Series. He had a huge hit in Game 7, if you don't forget that. Don't remember that. So, some really good players. And then Archer turned out to be, for a while, one of baseball's best starters. And so the Cubs had all those guys. They traded him over. And I'm not saying that Matt Garza didn't deliver. I mean, he was okay. But that's what the Rays want. They want to get rid of salary. And then they want to get young players back who can, jump right in and be successful. And so whoever they trade Glasnow for, I'm guessing that they are going to want a young starter back in return. Jordan Wicks, Ben Brown. Cubs aren't going to trade Cade Horton. Maybe Hayden Wesneski. Maybe you trade him, Caleb Killian. I don't know. But I think that there's, for me, kind of a threshold here if I'm the Cubs. Maybe some of those guys I would give up. Wisniewski probably if I could get Glasnow back, but I'm not giving up Wicks. We don't really know what Ben Brown's going to look like in the major leagues, but in the minor leagues, he's been a strikeout machine. He's been really good. Cubs got him from the Phillies a few years ago at the deadline for David Robertson, and he's a good pitcher. And he's a big prospect. Cade Horton, I think, is going to be top of the rotation guy for the Cubs really soon. And I just can't imagine a scenario where they would trade him, right? Caleb Killian hasn't really lived up to the hype. He was part of the Chris Bryant trade. And so maybe his value isn't as high as it once was, right? So all of those things are kind of up in the air right now. And after the Shohei Ohtani news drops and the contract happens, then we'll know what the next move will be for the Cubs, how much money they'll have or they won't have. But around baseball, the feeling is that the Cubs are seriously in this as other teams fall out, like the Mariners. They just, it was reported that they're out of it. And we knew that they were going to make a push for Ohtani. So how does that affect this? Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe even if you get Ohtani, you're going to need somebody to bridge that year where he's not pitching because of the injury. And maybe this is a trade that you make if you can get it without giving up the cream of the crop prospects, or a guy like Jordan Wicks, who's been to the big leagues and been successful. Other guys who you got to keep an eye on. First off, Blake Snell had such a great year. Another former Ray, by the way, and then now with the Padres, but he's a free agent, so I guess now he's really not with anybody. Yamamoto, who is being posted, and they're saying like more than half of the teams in baseball are interested in him, and he's going to make $200 million or something like that, coming over from Japan. And, what does that look like? And then Shota Imanaga, what is Imanaga going to look like? Yamamoto's 25. Igamana's 30, so maybe because of the age, the price tag will be lower. Yamamoto, I mean, this guy's been amazing. I mean, he's been like the best pitcher in Japan at a young age. But both of those guys are coming over from Japan, and they're both going to be available. And so, did the Cubs go out there and not give up, some of their prized prospects? And it's not that they have a bunch of pitching prospects in the minors, because they don't. They don't have a lot of these top-end guys. But it's better now than it was when Theo Epstein was in charge, where they couldn't get any starters. Oh, except one guy. And this is where I want to finish this. Dylan Cease. Yeah, traded Dylan Cease to the White Sox. And you remember that trade. Got Jose Quintana back. And Quintana was solid. And Cease has the potential, I think, to be a real top-end guy. A number one. Quintana was always like a 4 or 5. And Cease, has played on some good teams and some not-so-good teams with the White Sox. But if you're Chris Getz, who just took over running the organization, and you're trying to rebuild, I think the Cubs would be a team that you would look to. Would you trade him back to the team that you got him from? Well, hell yeah. I mean, if you get the right deal back. And the Sox need talent. I mean, their system right now, and Getz knows this because he was basically promoted and all those guys ahead of him fired, for him to come in and to retool the White Sox. And their minor league system's just awful right now. But the good news is you make a couple of trades, and the Cubs did that, and that's why their system's one of the tops in baseball. You get top-end talent back, and you can get things turned around fast. And the thing that the Cubs have is they have a lot of guys, 6 top 100 prospects. They have guys that aren't even listed as prospects that are really good players that I'm sure that the White Sox would be interested in. And sometimes those throwing guys, which is crazy. We're talking about Chris Archer. Archer was traded by Cleveland to the Cubs, and then by the Cubs to the Rays. But he was just kind of a throw-in. One of the scouts liked him, and hey, wanted to throw him in there. Yeah, and it turned out to be a great trade. That was the Mark DeRosa deal. And so, if I'm the Sox, I'm looking through that Cubs system and I'm going, you know what? Maybe the fourth guy in the deal is Jake Slaughter. And you guys have heard me talk a lot about him. But, I mean, the guys put up numbers, you know. Maybe you could have gotten Jonathan Perlaza before he signed to go over to Korea, you know. Maybe you could have got a Nelson Velasquez, who the Cubs traded for a middle reliever. You know, these are guys who are going to be difference makers on a roster. Are they going to be superstars, all-stars? I don't know, but they're going to be difference makers. And when you have a stacked system like the Cubs have right now, and you only have, 26 spots in the big leagues and 40 spots on the main roster, you've got to make decisions. And if you're a team like the White Sox, you're going, okay, you know what? Maybe we get 4 or 5 guys back. And our system, we don't have any guys that we can really look at and go, hey, you know what? This is a mid-level guy that's really could slide as an upper-level guy. So that's why this trade's intriguing to me. But the Cubs need to replace Marcus Stroman. They would love to do it with someone that they could bring in and that person stick around and be part of the rotation, and someone that they could really rely on. And so Cease, who was a Cubs farmhand and still well-liked in the organization, could be that guy. But, we'll find out. It's going to, like I said, as the winter meetings approach in Nashville, we're going to cover those winter meetings. We may even go there and see who we can talk to. A lot can change between now and then, and I think a lot of exciting things are on the horizon. And some of you guys have said, well, the Cubs, just because they paid that much money for Craig Counsell doesn't mean that they're going to spend money in free agency. I'm not one of these guys that thinks you got to go out and do the Yankees and just buy a bunch of guys in free agency and spend all this money and go over the threshold of the salary structure, the salary cap. I just think you got to spend smart. You got to target guys that you feel like can help you. Like right now, it's either Matt Mervis or bust at first base for the Cubs right now. So that's a spot where maybe you would go out and get, a free agent that could come in there and help, or, or you're going to rely on Christopher Morel to figure out if he can play that position defensively. Hayden McGarry, who is the Double-A first baseman last year for the Smokies, isn't going to be ready to take that job yet. Third base, you go out and you sign a third baseman. I talked about this yesterday. Now all of a sudden you're blocking a lot of the prospects that you have. Same thing with center field. If you sign Bellinger and he's to play center field, now you got an outfield that's pretty much locked in, and then a lot of your prospects are outfielders. So maybe making a trade for pitching would make sense just because you don't have a spot for those guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Love the comments, and I really appreciate all you guys hanging out. And hope you had a great Black Friday. Did you get all your deals in? It's a Black Friday weekend, though, at the Smokies team store. They're presenting the Cubs baseball channel right now. So swing over there, smokiesbaseball.com/store to get your latest deals. And we will talk again tomorrow. But thanks for hanging out on the Cubs baseball channel.